pretend to know the hand that crafted me, or the magic that that hand was practicing. I can't pretend to know what's coming after me. I can't pretend. I don't have to. I have to actually. And I can't pretend can't pretend that I'm not guilty of touching the food I was told not to touch. I can't pretend I was not acting naturally. I can't pretend. I don't have to. I have to actually. All right. Well, today's episode is a bit like a Tucker Carlson piece, or like a Ben Shapiro. Is this America? Is this the West? Is this what we're doing now? But I'm trying not to be too demoralizing about it. But there's a new low that Western culture has hit, and it is this slap fighting, these slap fighting organizations. Just the idea that it's somehow a good idea for two men to stand in front of each other and slap each other until one of them gives up or passes out. I don't even know how you win one of those competitions. I can't watch them. They are an abomination to sports and competition. And it started out just on like the fringes, I just started hearing about it. And then all of a sudden, the UFC and Dana White, I guess, got behind it and started one. And, I mean, pretty much normalized it and legitimized it. And are legitimizing it. And it's popping up everywhere. And it's, like, I would rather watch people get torn apart by lions in a coliseum than just two men or two women just slapping each other. It's a clear sign of like the bottom of a culture, like this the complete end of bread and circus, when there's no more circus to have. It's just ridiculous. And Maxim Gorky, the Russian writer, one of the last of the great Russian novelists, in his early work, he just talks about the degeneration of the whole Russian society, and how that would start to happen. Like, they would just, the peasants, it was just a free-for-all with vodka, and who knows what else, what other strange brews, but they would just drink and act like animals, and that's one of the things they would do in the taverns. Fighting was just the normal thing amongst the men and women, but he actually talked about in the taverns it degenerating to just literal slap contests, because that's how dumb and stupid and in need of a thrill society had become. And of course, Gorky went on to become a part of the Russian administration, which completely, was completely okay with just mowing down whole sections of the Russian society to rebuild it. I don't know how much Gorky overlapped with Stalin, but I can tell you they were definitely of the same mind. And so Russia, is a fallen society. Like, when they killed the Tsar, it's been downhill from there. And then it's been a spiral downhill for the past 100 years. Them trying to find themselves and rebuild. And I've just kind of followed it through the literature, which Gorky goes pretty smoothly into Solzhenitsyn. And Solzhenitsyn, his whole story is emblematic of his whole relationship with the West, his whole ideology, trying to find one. You know, he was the collective mind of Russia. And then you get to a guy named Edward Lermontov, something like that, who kind of signals the very end of Western culture, the last writer in the 80s. And he kind of represents the complete, it's reading his work is like watching a train wreck, but it's worse than a train wreck. It's a whole culture wreck. It's the very end of the decadence and the nihilism that Russia had become, having cut themselves off from any kind of theocratic authority. So after the 80s, what we've seen is some kind of rebuilding. The Orthodox Church has had a huge revival in the past 30 years in Russia, and are highly evolved, I think, in the government and the decisions that the government makes. And so in Russia, we might be seeing the emergence of a new real nation. But of course, they're a work in progress, and they got plenty of drama going on, and they're right in the middle of it. But I'm just saying, America and the West embracing this new slap fighting is a disaster. So yeah, I don't want to make anybody depressed, but definitely don't tune into that stuff and don't support it. And really, like, if I'm going to be honest, I'm a huge fan of mixed martial arts, and there's a certain brutality and savage, bread and circus aspect to that, but there's also like high levels of human skill involved and demonstrated. And to go from that to just slapping each other in the face is a huge step in the wrong direction, in my humble opinion. But yeah, that's the message for today. Slap fighting is an abomination.